students who can't make it today. All right, so this is social studies. Alondra, I think you're a new student too, so welcome. It's great to see people in class and to have new students and new faces. So I'm sharing my screen, and what you're looking at on this screen, Eva and Alondra, I'm assuming you can see it. This is Canvas. And if you were in any classes yesterday, the instructors probably talked about Canvas. Yeah. So this is what eventually, hopefully by next week, we're going to work toward having all students be engaged with during class. Since we don't have that fully set up yet, I'm just going to use Canvas and hopefully that will help people get familiar with what we're doing here. So the sign-in sheet, Alondra, I am going to paste this into the chat. If you could please sign in for class, and Eva, before at the end of class, we'll do this and make sure that that you get recorded. So I'm gonna head over to class. Oh, you know what? Oh shoot, we're in the wrong one. All right, forget this. So we got to bump out of this, Alondra. I started the English language class that was yesterday. So this is okay. Bear with me. I'm still learning how to use. Yeah, okay, that's what it is. That's all I did wrong. That's okay. Okay, here we are. So don't use that link to sign in, Alondra. I'm going to get you this one. And the class time that you need to put in there is 1 o'clock to 2:15. So make sure you put the time in. Okay, hopefully that was my one flub for today. Okay, so we are going to talk about political parties today, and I need to grab another document. Okay, so let's start just with some fun. I don't know. First of all, let's talk about this. What are the two symbols, or I guess you could call them mascots, of the two parties? First of all, what are the two major parties in this country? Yep. Yes, Republicans and the Democrats. So they each have an animal that symbolizes the party. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah, I forgot what they're.
Alondra, I'm assuming you can see my screen. You should see a political cartoon. Okay, awesome. So, and I chose these just because these are the ones that kind of are going around this week, not to like further any particular political agenda. But you'll see here, this is a political cartoon, and it is featuring President Joe Biden, and he's talking to a donkey. Why do you think he's talking to the donkey? Okay, I'll give it to you, because it's kind of weird, right? The donkey is the symbol of the Democratic Party. Okay, so that's the animal, and we'll go into why in a little bit. That is the animal that is associated with Democrats. And so, basically this is kind of like symbolizing what? Like the donkey symbolizes, what do you think it's symbolizing? Democrats, exactly, like the Democratic Party. And he's come to Biden and is saying he's concerned that accusing MAGA, and you know what MAGA is, Make America Great Again, Republicans of semi-fascism will only ostracize the white nationalists who tried to overthrow the government. So next, we have this one. So this one, maybe kind of hard to see, is two dinosaurs and they're cruising around. Up here it says severe drought uncovers dinosaur tracks in Texas. So that actually happened this week. This was in the news. I just read this yesterday, because there's so much drought that the water is so low that dinosaur tracks from 113 million years ago are showing up. Same thing's happening like at Lake Mead. In fact, they found a barrel with a dead body in it with a gunshot wound that has probably been there for decades, because the water's so low now that they're now investigating. So severe drought, and one dinosaur said to another, "You think this is primitive? Wait for the regressive political climate here 113 million years from now." So pretty funny, projecting the future, which is going on now, commenting on the political climate, which has a lot of people who are just, wanting to ignore climate change. And they're trying to get policies passed right now for climate change. So how about this one? That was my teacher. I gave her a gold star and a smiley face. What do you think the political commentary is here? Yep. Poverty, which is increasing right now because of inflation. And what else? What is it saying about teachers in particular? Yep, they don't get paid enough. Okay, so here we have an elephant. So here, first we have the donkey, and we know the donkey is the Democrats. So who do you think the elephant goes with? Republicans. So the elephant is the symbolic animal of the Republicans. So here's this elephant symbolizing the Republican Party. Who's the man? It took me a minute. He's the Monopoly guy. Exactly. I was like, oh, right. That's who he is. He looks so familiar. What's the GOP? Which is on his money bag. I'm allowed to jump in anytime too. You don't have to. Oh, the GOP it stands for the Grand Old Party. That's the kind of original name of the Republican Party, or it's a name they got during the Civil War. We'll review that. So the other thing that's big in the news this week is that President Biden didn't really technically forgive student loan debt, but he did reduce it for a lot of people. So the Republican Party representative, the elephant, saying student loan debt forgiveness, nope, can't forgive Biden for that. So kind of symbolizing that the Republicans weren't really in favor of it. And then the Monopoly guy is kind of like, well, but the Republicans have given a $12 trillion tax cut. And then this one I picked it just because you've got the donkey and the elephant together. And so the donkey, because the Democrats are doing a little better right now, because of course it always changes. So look at the elephant. What does it remind you of?
That guy.
Okay, I know you're thinking of the QAnon shaman,
Yeah.
right? From Arizona, our guy from Arizona who wore that hat like that and had all the tattoos and had his shirt off during the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. So I guess this one's trying to say that the Dems are feeling pretty good about midterms because of the hearings and stuff that happened about the January 6th insurrection. So those are some modern day tunes that are kind of fun to analyze.
Would that be called?
Yep. So yes, the political cartoons are typically they want to make a point, and it can be considered propaganda because typically the person who's doing the cartoon is trying, it has one strong opinion and is trying to make that point. So let's see, actually, I wanted to go where. Just talk about, right now we're going to talk about the donkey and the elephant. So I found this, thought this was kind of interesting. And we'll go into this a little bit more. But yeah, Andrew Jackson in 1828 was running for president because his last name was Jackson. People just kind of played off of that, and the people who were against him were calling him Jackass. And so instead of getting like upset about it, he just adopted it. He was like, yep, I'm just going to put a donkey on all of my political posters. And so what happened is that political cartoonists, then they started featuring the donkey in their political cartoons way back in the 19th century.
That's what I kind of, but I didn't want to think.
Oh, okay, I know. Well, we can say Jackass. So yeah, so that's how that came about. And then the connection with the Republicans. So the Republican Party, Abraham Lincoln was a part of the Republican Party. And so the elephant, basically during Civil War, during combat, soldiers would say that they saw the elephant if they had been in combat. And so posters had pictures of the elephant holding, celebrating Union victories all throughout the Civil War. Yep, Abraham Lincoln. So Thomas Nast, oh yeah, and you're taking notes. Take notes absolutely through this whole thing if you'd like. And we'll do some review, which we probably won't get to until class on Thursday. So Thomas Nast was an early political cartoonist. He is credited with perpetuating the donkey and the elephant as the two symbols. He first used the donkey in 1870 in an issue of Harper's Weekly. And he used the elephant in 1871. So this was a cartoon in 1874, which was called the Third Term Panic. And if you take a look at it, it's definitely kind of like chaos, the zoo situation, where animals are just kind of freaking out about reform and all different kinds of things. So as you can see, there's a long history of political cartoons and a very long history of them using the donkey and the elephant. And here's two more that were from him. We can enlarge them. So little commentary there in Harper's Weekly. Okay, so let's go back to this. So we're gonna go over Nast, yeah, Thomas Nast. So, okay, so let's talk about political parties. So today and probably a little bit Thursday, we're going to talk about the two major political parties in this country, what role they play, talk about the third parties that do exist in this country, and how political parties influence public opinion. So we already talked about this, right? The two major political parties in the United States are Democrats and Republicans. What are some other ones that you've heard of? So the Libertarian Party, yep, there's the Libertarian Party. What else? Got the Green Party. A few others. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but okay, so yeah, so they call it a party, but it's really that symbolizes that it's a group of people, right, who are working together. They came together because they have the same political views. So political views, just a vocabulary word here, are a person's ideas. It's what they believe, right, about how the government should be run. People have, typically there are a few major issues that people feel really strongly about, and whether or not they agree with everything about a certain political party, the things they feel strongest about will usually draw them to one particular party over another. There's this constant battle, right, for one political party, either the Democrats or the Republicans, to gain more power and influence in the government than another. What are some of the ways that the political parties can gain power? They're talking about candidates being elected to office. Like the what? Right, so usually there's a lot of propaganda that goes on during the elections, right? So what are the different ways that one political party can get more power? Like, besides the propaganda, like, like in different offices. Everybody tends to think of the president of the United States, right? That, like right now we have a Democrat, that then, oh, because there's a Democratic president, the Democrats have the most power, right? And it's not that simple. It's more complicated than that in American politics. We have the Senate. And, you know, the Senate is where laws are created and passed. And while the president ultimately has veto power, the Senate is where that happens. And you can have a Democratic president and a Republican and a Senate that has the Republican majority, which is, and we'll go into this more when we do some more civics classes, kind of that checks and balances, so that there really is no way that it can ever really get super out of balance where only one party has all of the power. Then, of course, you also have the governors. Governors are really powerful. And those governors are either typically Democratic or Republican, even though some third party candidates, no third party candidate like from the Libertarian or Green Party has ever won the presidency, but those people from those parties have won gubernatorial races, so they have become governors of states, and have been elected to the House or Senate. So here they are. There's a donkey, and there's the elephant, and it's blue is the color for Democrats, red is the color for Republicans. So here, yeah, it talks again about the fact that there are other political parties. So we technically have a multi-party system. But I think that a lot of people tend, maybe it's cynical, I don't know, but tend to feel that we really only have a two-party system. So they have so much power that most of the offices, elected offices in government, belong to one or the other. And most Americans do identify with one or the other. You know, when you go to register to vote, you don't have to choose a party. You can stay unaffiliated. But if you do choose a party, that doesn't mean you can't then at an election time, you still have the freedom to vote for somebody from another party. One way. Okay, so let's just do some quick questions. Does the US have a two-party system, true or false? Yep, false. So it appears, right? We have two major political parties. Technically, we have a multi-party system because there are other parties that are allowed. They just don't have a lot of power. So the US has a two-party system, false. Okay, so let's talk about those third parties. So candidates for political office can represent any party, but that doesn't mean they're going to get on the ballot. So there are complicated rules about ballot access. So it has to do with candidates. It also has to do with like propositions. So I don't know if you've ever gone to the grocery store or gone to the library, and as you're walking in, there's somebody there asking you to sign a petition. That petition, all they're trying to do is get something on the ballot, just so that it can be voted on by people, because there are ballot rules, and the rules with getting things on the ballot to vote on. You have to get a certain amount of valid signatures in order for something to get on the ballot.
Yeah, like teachers.
Yep, for, yep. Things that have to do with like tax funding or creating new taxes or things like that. So yeah, so usually the rules are getting a certain number of signatures from registered voters. You have to be registered and all that gets checked. So the rules really do keep most other parties from being able to offer a candidate for, especially for president. So they don't all have access, all these third parties, they don't all have ballot access in all the states. So the one you had mentioned, the Libertarian Party, is the largest third party. And it does have ballot access for the presidential election in more than 30 states, which means if they do push a candidate forward and they pass all the rules regarding ballot access, they could actually get a candidate on the ballot in more than 30 states. You can also write in a candidate if you want to, if that person's not on the ballot, but you want to do that. So in those other states, you can write in a third-party candidate if they don't have ballot access in your state. And as they said, you can vote for yourself or Mickey Mouse. Typically, those are considered wasted votes because you're not really getting your voice heard, because of course that person you write in is never going to get elected. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it if you feel strongly about doing it. So let's talk about this. So why do you think states have rules about ballot access, and why do they have rules that restrict or make it harder for people to get their name on the ballot or get another candidate on the ballot? The long history way back, I mean, this goes so far back, about restricting ballot access. And it's still very controversial. So people are debating this all the time about whether or not these rules should be so strict. You can kind of boil it down to, there are ballot access rules so that you don't have a situation where just anybody can get on the ballot, right? Because that really creates chaos and it really fractures things. And it's harder to kind of have a clean election where it's really clear what the majority of the people want. How can they be unfair? Well, just like anything, when you've got a situation where the minority doesn't have as much access, that definitely can create some inequalities for sure. So we might have a multi-party system, but it's not really equal because not all of those political parties have the same access to getting their agenda in front of the people because they don't have as much power. Okay, so let's talk about the party platform. So they're kind of showing the little image here with the person standing on top of the thing that looks like a Pringles box. That it's not a physical platform that somebody stands up on. A platform is basically just a document that is written by each political party that clearly expresses the issues that they believe in, what they stand for, the political issues that they're going to work toward pushing forward. You can go online and you can read the platforms. They're published for each political party, which if you're trying to decide which party you want to become a part of is a really great thing to do, is to read through their platforms and decide which party's issues your beliefs align more with. So this is why they do that. They get together at national conventions usually, and that's where they decide on which issues are most important for them. Like here, it could have to do with jobs, it could have to do with taxes, it could have to do with the federal government supporting social services, it could have to do with education, it could have to do with trade between other countries. There would be something about immigration in the party platform, probably something about abortion. Those are all things that you're going to find in a party's platform. So again, it's a kind of an odd word because we think of a platform as something you put something on or stand on, but it's actually a document that's created with all the party's views. Yes, during election time is when you start seeing a lot more about the different political parties and the candidates. So this is another vocabulary word here. The candidate is the person who's running for political office. So, I mean, really almost always true. They're with one political party or another. They really have to be in order to get support from that political party. You're not going to have a Republican, running for president that's going to get a lot of support necessarily from the Democrats. Sometimes people just vote that way. They're just like, oh, okay, I see that person's aligned with the party that I registered as, and I'm just going to vote for those people. There are committees at the local, state, and national level. So it's huge. So you're going to have people right here in Flagstaff who are on committees or volunteering to work toward getting the message out about a particular candidate in their party. And that goes all the way up to the national level. And a lot of that is just phone banking, encouraging people to vote. and encouraging people to vote a particular way. Oops, okay. Sorry, my finger is being weird. I'm not making anybody dizzy. Okay, so another one. We just covered this. So political parties work at all levels of government, national, state, and local. True or false? True, right? So we've got it right here, like I said, in Flagstaff, all the way up to in Washington, D.C., in the federal offices. Okay, so you always have a majority or a minority. Like I was talking about earlier, you might have a Democratic president, but in the Senate, there could be a Republican majority. Sometimes it's really close and it's just the majority is really a small margin. Sometimes it's larger than that. So candidates who are elected to office, like your state senator or your governor, they're supposed to represent all people, right? The senators are supposed to represent everybody in their district or everybody in their state. The House of Representatives, they're supposed to represent everybody in their district. And the governor is supposed to represent everybody in their state. But all of those people are affiliated with one particular political party, which is fine. They should, though, work hard to understand how all of their constituents feel. And if the constituents, that's just another vocabulary word that just means basically they're citizens who vote, or really just any citizen. So, but in Congress, the balance of power between Republicans and Democrats, whoever has the majority in Congress can actually influence which laws get passed. Tons of negotiating goes on all the time between the Democratic leaders and the Republicans. They're making deals. Somebody wants a law to be passed. Let's say the Republicans want a law to be passed. And the Democrats are like, well, we'll support it if you add this particular thing to it. And sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. So yeah, the majority party is the one who usually can influence which laws or which bills are proposed and which of the bills become law. Like I said, they said here, it's not easy. Like I said, there's lots of debate that goes on. This is what they do pretty much all day. Is debate issues. They talk to, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the term now. They talk to lobbyists. So lobbyists are people who were paid by particular industries. You could even have teachers unions that have lobbyists that go and try to influence the different Congress members to vote certain ways. Okay, true or false? The US Congress and most state legislatures, Republicans and Democrats, are split into a majority party and a minority party. True or false? Let's look back at this graphic here. Yep, true. So you're never going to have a state legislature or Congress where you have exactly half that are Republican and exactly half that are Democrat. There's always going to be one that's a majority. Okay, so let's talk about this. We've covered this before, but we're going to cover it again at some point. This, this is circular curriculum. We'll get back to this again. So if you haven't been here, which neither of you, I think, have been for the other classes, what's the executive branch? We have three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. So the executive branch is the president. Okay, it's the president and the president's cabinet. So president and state governors almost always belong to one political party or the other. Of course, I'll just go back to this again. There have been some governors that have been elected from third parties, such as the Libertarian Party. So the president or the governor, again, they're supposed to work for the people, not just for their party. However, part of their job is to advance the ideas and the issues of the party that they belong to. There should be a balance there, right? You shouldn't get elected and then only care about the issues that are going on in your party. You should promote the party's platform, but you also need to be committed to understanding what's important to all the people you're representing. Okay, so the president or governor's political party has no effect on the lawmaking process. True or false? They're supposed to be balanced, but in reality, their political party does affect how they how the lawmaking process happens, because they're going to lean more toward their party than another. So this is false. This is false because it does have some effect. Okay, so here's a list of some of the political parties in this blue box. So yeah, you'll see campaigns when people are running for office. They will always say what political party that they are affiliated with during their TV commercials or on all of their posters. Sometimes it's not even the candidate who created the ad. It's actually just their political party that created it. They're supposed to get like approval or permission from that candidate. But basically, going to the political parties' websites to read their platforms is probably the best way for you to get information on how to vote or which party to support, and compare them. Because if you're only looking at campaign ads, you're not really going to get the whole idea. You can look up senators, governors, you can look up how they voted on issues in the past to see if you actually want to support them, to see if the way they voted in the past aligns with the issues that you find really important. And then, like I said before, you don't have to join a particular political party when you register to vote, but you can. If you do choose one particular, well, it's either the Republicans or the Democrats, if you are affiliated with that, one of those parties, during the primary elections, so the primary elections are the elections that come before the actual final election, and the primaries is where you're going to choose between, and this just happened in Arizona, we just had the primary elections for governor. So there were a couple of candidates who were running for as Democrats to be the one chosen for the main election. And there were a couple that were running to be chosen for the Republican Party. So if you are registered with the Republican or Democratic Party, you get to vote in those primaries for which one you want to be chosen. So in the end, it was Carrie Lake for the Republicans out of the two candidates or few candidates that was chosen, and Katie Hobbs out of the Democrats, out of all the ones that were running. And so now for the real election, that's who we have to choose from. So that's why it can be interesting. You can vote a little bit more if you are affiliated with a particular party, because you can vote in those primary elections. Okay, so let's do some vocabulary checking. So our vocabulary words here are political party, platform, candidate, minority party, and third party. And here are the definitions that are mixed up. So let's read the first definition and decide together which word is being defined. So the first one, political party that does not have a majority of the elected members. So, yep, minority party. So yeah, so if you think of this in terms of test taking, which is the ultimate goal for everybody taking these classes, you look for keywords in the question, right? So the keyword here is political party and then majority. And what they're saying is that it doesn't have the majority. So then, you know, if you're not sure, you can use those clues. And yes, minority party fits this definition. Okay, how about this one? A political party other than Republican or Democrat. If it's not, yep, that's the third party. An organized group of people who share similar political views and work to influence government. If they're organized, they have the same ideas. What are they called? So think about what words they're using here. It's a group, right? So a political party is just an organized group. Why they call it a party, I'm not sure, but that's what a political party is. Organized group of people who share views and work together. Okay, so the set of statements describing a party's views on major issues is called a what? Platform, right? So remember, it's a platform, but really what it is a document, not a physical thing somebody stands on. And then a person running for political office is the candidate, right? Okay, there's some more. So here our vocabulary words are write-in candidate, we talked about that, political views, ballot access, public policy, and majority party. So over here on the right, actually, let me get to the chat, Alondra, which has now disappeared in case you want to put answers in there. I see it. Okay. Okay, let's look at the definitions. Allowing a political party to put a candidate on the ballot. Talked about those rules. We're talking about a ballot. So what answer do you think is the right answer? Which word matches this definition?
Right, and right.
So
No.
yep, so they're actually on the ballot. So the ballot access are the rules that will or will not allow a political party to put a candidate on the ballot. Okay, so which vocabulary word does this definition go with? A person's ideas about how government should run and how issues should be solved. So ideas is a key word. See if you can find a synonym over here in the vocabulary word.
Public policy.
What's a synonym to ideas? You just said it. Political views. So your views are your ideas, right? So that you have, there you have a synonym. So with test taking, if you're not totally sure, look for those types of things. Oh, what are ideas? Oh, ideas are views. And the government and how it should be run that's our politics, right? So political views are a person's ideas about how government should run and how issues should be solved. Okay, So tell me what a keyword would be in this one. Political party with the most elected members. What's a keyword you should clue in on when you're looking at that definition? It's giving you most, exactly. So most is the word you're going to clue into there. So if it's a political party with most of the elected members, which vocabulary word? Yep, majority party, majority and most, right? Again, you've got those synonyms. Okay, let's see. What keyword would you clue in on this, or keywords? A candidate whose name a voter must handwrite on the ballot. You have to handwrite this candidate in. So what is that candidate called? A write-in candidate, and they've given it to you right there, right in the definition. You have to handwrite it. So it's the write-in candidate. So this means it's a candidate who's not on the ballot, but you want to vote for that person anyway. So you write their name in. Okay, last definition: the stand the government takes about how issues should be handled. Policy. So the policy that's written represents how the government feels something should be handled, because it's become actual policy. They're going to take action on it. Okay, so true or false? By forming a political party, people gain more influence over government by banding together with others. True or false? True, exactly. Yep. So if you have really strong opinions about something and you want to have influence over the government, it's good to find other people who agree with you, and then you'll have that influence. Okay, so this one we've touched on a couple times. So no independent has ever been elected to political office. So by independent, they just mean somebody from a third party who is not a Republican or a Democrat. So I'll give you this. It's true that nobody from an independent party has ever been elected president, but is it true that no independent has ever been elected to any political office? Got other political offices such as governor or state senator or House of Representatives. No independent has ever been elected to political office. Is this true or false?
False.
This one's false, exactly, because we have had governors or representatives or senators, people in Congress who have actually been elected. Okay. You can only vote for a candidate who is the same party as the party with which you've registered. True or false? False, exactly. Okay, so that does it for the presentation. Information about the writing candidate, this one?
Yeah, before that, we're going to.
Yeah, so take as many notes as you want to about the political parties. So let's see. Sure. So we do have about 14 minutes left in class. And so let's go on to the handout. Well, let's do this real quick. Before I'll give you the handout to do, and we'll talk about it on Thursday. Okay, so let's discuss some of these questions. So what positive and negative traits do donkeys have, right? Because if you remember back to what we talked about at the beginning of the class, the donkey was first thrown at the Democratic Party as a criticism, as making fun of the candidate. Maybe partly because donkeys are called jackasses, and so that was kind of a way to call them a name. I've known donkeys personally. I don't know if anybody else has, but no person or animal is all bad, right? So let's talk about positive and negative traits, and they might be stereotypes, but that's okay. It's what comes up. Do donkeys have? What can you think of? And Alondra, just go ahead and chime in. Huh?
What did you say that? What is the donkey?
Yeah, so like what positive traits does a donkey have and what negative traits? So what do you think you know about donkeys? Or you could say, oh, that's a good thing about donkeys, or that's not such a good thing about donkeys. What's good about a donkey? I was thinking along the same lines, like maybe they would pull a plow.
Yeah, they the reason why he has donkeys, okay. It had something to do with the horse.
I think they are strong. Alondra, I did actually just pull up the chat. So if you want to type anything in there, we'll be able to see it also. So yeah, they're strong. They're probably hard workers. Donkeys I've known have always been very gentle, a little bit more mellow than a horse. People will often though say that they're stubborn, or that might be more like a mule, but still I think people kind of will say that. Just Lee, what symbolism might a donkey make you think of in terms of religion? In terms of Christianity specifically?
Walking with the
About Christmas. Great.
pictures.
Yeah, so we see pictures with imagery. Who knows if it's true? But supposedly, right, Mary was, when she was pregnant and they're looking for places to stay, she was being carried around on a donkey. Right? Okay, so that might be a little far-fetched, but the negative, I guess you could say donkeys smell bad, maybe, if you don't like the smell of farm animals. They're slow. They're slow. Okay, so let's talk about elephants. And of course, think about this in terms of the political parties and how they're using those things to their advantage, right? So the Democrats might be like, yeah, we relate to the donkey because we are really for the people, for like the regular person, not for the rich people. We're for the hard workers. They can make those connections there. Elephants. What are positive and negative traits about elephants?
Huge.
They're huge.
They're
Yep.
They're
They have good memory.
Yep, Alondra, I was going to say the same thing. Yep, they're known as having really good memories. Can they be dangerous? Yeah, they can just wipe you out, right? Stampede and, but yeah, they're known to be really loyal, right? To their, the elephants that are in their group or their family. Okay, so thinking about that, do you think that the donkey and elephant, that those are the best choices to represent the Democratic and Republican parties? Or can you think of another animal for each one of them? What's the animal that's the symbol for America in general?
The eagle.
Right? So kind of this regal bird of the skies, right? Who's just majestic and powerful and soaring all over everything. So I don't know that there's a lot of negativity that can be related to the eagle, but let's talk again about some of those political cartoons. Do you think that they actually influence what people think? In what way?
So there's aspects of what they're. You like to read those in live because how his opinion of the thing would be, I don't know how to explain it, but I see see a lot of what he thinks now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that what you're getting at is they can really influence readers. Because that cartoonist is planting a seed of a message. And sometimes they're doing it in a way where they turn an issue on its head, and all of a sudden you see it from a different angle, with humor. And I think that can influence what people think. There's definitely a bias in the political cartoon. And I don't know if you've ever heard of confirmation bias, but confirmation bias, we all tend to gravitate toward that. So we all tend to gravitate toward something, and that might be a particular type of magazine you read, or newspaper, or a newsletter you belong to, or a group you belong to, or cartoons that you particularly like from a particular cartoonist that confirms the bias you already have. We all have biases, right? And so we tend to like the things and go toward the things that confirm the biases we already have, because we're like, oh, right, that person believes what I believe too. It makes us feel better. And it's important to kind of check yourself when you have that, and expose yourself to ideas that are different from yours, just to make sure you're kind of understanding everything. Do you think a cartoon would change your mind about an issue, or just maybe make you aware of?
I think it will make you aware of what there's certain things that pop up, like if I see a cartoon, I'll be like, hey,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
So I think so.
Okay. I'm going to wrap this up, because let's talk a little bit about what's the next steps for this class. I do have a handout, and I'm going to stop sharing this at this point. So Alondra, you should just be seeing me at this point. Were you able, Alondra, to access that Jot form link to sign in for class?
Yes.
Awesome. Then I'm going to do this. Have you been able to access Canvas yet?
No.
No. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to take this document.
You know, we get access. to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and I actually have a hard copy of this for you,
Okay.
since I wasn't sure if people would have access to Canvas yet. So Alondra, I've just put in the chat a link to a handout that reviews everything. It's only actually 2 pages of information that reviews what we talked about today. And then the other 2 pages are vocabulary matching, and then some other activities and questions to answer. And go ahead and work on that. And Eva, I'll give you a hard copy. If you can't access it like that, Alondra, or you prefer a hard copy,
I
will-
just downloaded it.
Okay, perfect. We always put class materials in a binder. And that binder is here at the 4th Street campus.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, it was great having you in class. Thanks for coming. And hopefully we'll see you another time, or maybe I'll see you in person.
If we go back and forth like